Well, hello, Stacey Murphy here, and this presentation is about adding flowers to your vegetable and herb garden. Now, you probably started growing your own food because homegrown tastes better. All of that pride of the harvest, it just simply tastes better. You probably started growing your own food because you know exactly how it's grown. You know it's toxin-free. You know that it is the most nutrient-dense food on the planet because you have nurtured it. You've nurtured the soil, which delivered the nutrients to the plants, which provides all of that health and vitality to you. You probably grow your own food because you can pick whichever varieties you want for lots of diversity, lots of flavors that you can't get at the grocery store. And you probably are growing food because you love plants and you love being outside and enjoying your time in nature. And you may even be preserving the harvest. And in that whole process, you may or may not have underestimated flowers. I know I did when I first got started in my first couple gardens. And flowers are an amazing way to not only add productivity to your already thriving vegetable and herb garden, but they also transform that production garden into a work of art, into a place of miracles. And so that is what flowers are all about, bringing more creativity, bringing more joy, bringing more light into your life. Flowers truly are the food for the soul. And by putting them in your garden, you will experience a level of appreciation of nature beyond simply growing your own food. So in this presentation, I'm going to share 7 reasons to grow flowers in your vegetable and herb garden. You're going to hear 5 important considerations when choosing which flowers you want to grow. And even when you choose your flowers, you still have to choose varieties. So you'll hear 1 critical mistake to avoid when choosing your varieties as well. So here we go. First up, 7 reasons to grow flowers in your vegetable and herb garden. So one of the main reasons you grow food is production. You want the most amount of harvest. You want to ensure that you're providing food for your family. And one of the factors there is ensuring that every tomato flower that's on your plant transforms into a precious tomato. Every cucumber flower transforms into a cucumber. And how does that happen? Well, that happens with pollinators. And luckily, there are over 200,000 pollinators who are just looking for excitement in the world. They are looking for beautiful flowers. They are looking for work that they can do for you. And by the way, when they transform those flowers into fruits, they're also creating the seeds for the next generation of plants. So the production of your garden really is connected to how many pollinators you have access to, and how many varieties of pollinators that you have access to increases your ability to transform those flowers into food. And so you want to think about a variety of colors that will attract pollinators, a variety of flower sizes that will attract pollinators. As much diversity as you can include means you get as many pollinators coming to the party of your garden. And you will experience some fun and some joy and some awe and some wonder by seeing new pollinators. They are wonderful and wacky. Some of them show up and you look at them and you say, oh my gosh, I have never seen an insect like that in my life. I wonder what that is. You go look it up and you find out, wow, that's a new pollinator in my garden. So one of the main reasons people talk about growing flowers in their garden always comes back to pollinators because of production. And speaking of production, the second reason to include flowers in your garden is that you can grow your own fertilizer. How cool is that? So a lot of people think about flowers as beautiful or attracting pollinators, but guess what? It can also be fertilizer. So comfrey, which is this photo here, is got these little purple flowers and it's a big leafy plant and it's a big perennial. It'll grow back year after year. The benefit of growing some comfrey is that you can simply chop this whole thing down, chop it up into little bits and deliver it to the soil, and it will compost in place and it delivers nitrogen back into your garden. How cool is that, that you can actually grow your own fertilizer? And you know, when you're growing nutrient-rich food, the number one thing to do is to replenish the soil. And you can chop this entire plant down, put it in the soil, and it will grow back. And there's more that you'll hear about later in this presentation. The third reason to grow flowers in your vegetable and herb garden is to increase the amount of medicine that's available on demand. So food, yes, is medicine. And there are lots of flowers that you'll see at the stores, things like echinacea, things like chamomile, things like lavender. These are all things that you can be growing in your garden to increase the amount of medicine that you have on demand in your garden. How cool is that? And the fourth reason that people grow flowers. Now, this one is interesting because they might be doing it intuitively and not really knowing why they do it, or they might think it's for a reason. Here's what I think this is. So I grow flowers in my vegetable and herb garden because I believe that everything on this planet has a resonant frequency. And in this air, or all around us, there's an electromagnetic spectrum of light. Only a small fraction that we can see, 0.0035% that we can actually see. Insects can see more of that. And animals can see more of that. There's only a sliver of the things that we can hear, that there's a small spectrum of frequencies that we can hear with our naked ear, but animals hear a whole bunch more. Insects hear a bunch more. And it's all in this space all around us. And so when you intersperse different plants inside of a garden, anything, whether that's vegetables, herbs, flowers, when you introduce biodiversity, these plants have different frequencies. And why is that important? When you plant a lot of different things together and those frequencies are they don't quite mesh, they're just all over the place, different insects are attracted to different plants. And one of the reasons why they may be attracted is this electromagnetic frequency that's going on that we can't quite, it's subtle, we can't quite understand it, but quantum science is starting to understand this a little bit more every day. So by adding flowers to your garden, you're changing the frequency patterns in your garden, which means that some of the things, some of the pests, some of the other things that you're not really excited about having in your garden, they get a little confused and they maybe go a different direction. So it's an interesting concept. It's one that some people just say more biodiversity is a good thing because it means that you're attracting more insects. The flip side of that is that because those frequencies are a little bit interspersed, it also can repel certain pests away from particular plants because there's a mixed frequency. So the fifth reason why people grow flowers, and this should be very apparent, is beauty. Flowers add so much beauty in the world. Their colors, these are striped marigolds. These are French striped marigolds. They add so much beauty. And so when you have a big vegetable garden full of green things, and then you've got these pops of color everywhere, it adds so much beauty to your life. And when you go out in your garden, it's so enjoyable seeing all of these flowers pop all around the garden. This should also be no surprise that the sixth reason that a lot of people grow flowers is for the fragrance. And so fragrance will change your mood. As you brush up against this rose bush and you smell the rose, it changes the way you're feeling in any possible moment. And so being out in your garden and getting a chance to smell the flowers is a wonderful time. The seventh reason to grow flowers in your vegetable and herb garden is the great unknown. And if you think about where miracles come from in your life, it's oftentimes out of the blue. It's oftentimes from things that are uncertain. It's things where you can't predict. It's things that you don't know. And then the miracles show up. And Einstein said it best when he said, I have no special talent. I'm only passionately curious. So when you're passionately curious about nature and you're in wonder and awe and you see a flower and you say, I'm attracted to that flower. I don't know why, doesn't matter. I'm going to take it home and I'm going to nourish it and I'm going to nurture it and I'm going to see what happens and allow the mysteries of this particular plant to unfold. And perhaps you don't even do any research online about the flower. You simply bring it home to get to know it like a relationship with a person. And in my experience, this is what I refer to as spirit gardening. It's trusting that in these uncertain plants, in these things that we're attracted to intuitively, that there's something there for us. There's a lesson for us. There's a reason why we're attracted to it. Maybe it holds a medicine that we need. And it is embracing that great unknown that makes our garden so fun. This really helps transform a simple, productive garden into a place of miracles, a zone of miracles, by embracing the unknown and bringing home flowers that you've never met before. So those are the 7 reasons you want to grow flowers in your vegetable and herb garden. And hopefully you see how flowers are food for the soul, beyond just creating more production in your garden, that they really fuel your creativity, your innovation in the garden, and your joy in the garden. And after all, isn't that what you're there for, is more vitality and more excitement? So they really do bring a lot of that with all of those different reasons. So now let's move on to 5 important decisions you need to make when you're choosing flowers for your vegetable and herb garden. And there are lots of flowers that are standard in vegetable and herb gardens. So we talked about why people pick different flowers, and so you could categorize groups of flowers by those reasons. You could say, well, I also want to grow, when in the medicine category, a lot of those are edible flowers. And so you've got nasturtiums, marigolds, sweet peas, calendula, sunflowers, borage. All of these are edible in some way, shape, or form. And there's so many more than that as well. You've got your purely sort of medicinal flowers that maybe you're making teas or tinctures or other things with. You're not necessarily eating the flower, but you're infusing things, or you're making tinctures, things like chamomile and echinacea and lavender and more. And you could be making body products with them, of course, as well. And then you've got your plants that are adding fertility to your soil. And some of the common ones there, we looked at comfrey already, but there's also clover and lupins and phacelia. And those all are going to fix nitrogen in the soil and really benefit your garden in the long run. And then you've also got your sort of beauty category, flowers that typical farmers use in bouquets. And flowers really are food for the soul, and beauty is important. It's not always about edibles, right? So things like zinnias and cosmos and celosia and bachelor's buttons and more, these are all flowers that are really wonderfully beneficial in your vegetable and herb garden, and they can create really beautiful bouquets for you. So there's a long list of flowers that you could be growing in your vegetable and herb garden. There are 5 considerations as you're making your choice of which flowers that you would want to choose. And the number 1 consideration is, what kind of ecosystem are you nurturing? You want to create the most healthy ecosystem for your vegetables and herbs to thrive. So you want to make sure you're calling in the right pollinators for the plants that need pollination. And so you can look that up. You can look up, here are the vegetables I'm growing, what pollinates them, and create a habitat for those specific pollinators. And you can also, if you have certain pests in your area that you know are the typical pests, there are plants that can actually repel those insects or those animals. When you're having deer population problems, there are certain plants that give off certain fragrances that the deer will steer clear of. And so when you're creating that ecosystem, you can create zones too. You can say, well, I'm okay if the deer eat this zone, so I'm going to put flowers that they like over here and draw the deer away from my vegetables and herbs maybe. And your ecosystem sometimes is bigger than you realize. So catnip, this image here is catnip, and catnip has beautiful flowers on it, as well as being a medicinal herb. And what's interesting is that cats love to rub all over it. It releases that chemical that makes them a little bit excited and happy. And so they love to rub on these plants. That same process is also releasing the essential oils of that plant into the air, and it's potentially repelling certain pests from your garden. So your ecosystem, there's lots of different components to your ecosystem. And so thinking about what are the right flowers that will draw in the right other players in this puzzle that you're creating. All right. And the second design consideration as you're choosing your flowers is feeling into your body. What kind of medicine does my body want? And this is where you start to trust. And it's really easy to go into research mode and say, I believe that I need these medicines in my life, and these are the plants that provide that medicine. I highly recommend also trusting your intuition and going out and looking at plants, looking at flowers, touching them, feeling them, smelling them, even tasting them a little bit, and seeing, wow, this is a plant that really calls to me. And there's a gift here for me, bringing it into your garden. And that medicine could range from actually being something that you're creating a tea with, something that you're eating the flower, you're making a tincture out of the flower, or even making a bouquet that would be food for your soul. That's what I like to call flower bouquets, is food for your soul. And so what kind of medicine is it that your body is wanting? And trusting that when you're discovering flowers, when you go to a nursery and you're looking at the flowers that you feel called to, trust that, looking through a catalog, trusting what kind of medicine your body is calling for. And the third consideration as you're choosing the flowers that you want to grow in your vegetable and herb garden is how much space do you have? So with your vegetable and herb garden, oftentimes you have a crop plan for the year, and plants are moving around. The timing and spacing of things is moving. And so how do you fit flowers into that when flowers typically are there all season, or even perennial? They come back year after year. And so when you look at how much space you have, you can always plant flowers along the edges and let them kind of hang off the sides. Marigolds are great for hanging off the sides. Here in this garden, this nasturtium plant is kind of in the corner. It's hanging off the side because it gets really big. A nasturtium plant gets really, really big with time. But the key was I planted it right at the corner, and it spilled out over the edge of the garden and outside of the garden versus taking up space in the garden. But it was still in the same soil as the vegetable garden because that soil was so fertile. Also, do you want to interplant? So you could plant lettuces, and then in between them, you could be planting flowers that would maybe shade out the lettuce in the peak heat of the sun. So you could have something taller shading out some of your other plants that are more delicate. In this image, there is also, this is a bronze fennel that is perennial, and it's all around the edges of the garden. And the reason it's there, it gets really big and bushy, and the flowers get really, really big. And it basically shades the garden in the summertime. This is in the desert. And so it gets really hot in the summer. So interplanting in order to create shade for your more delicate plants is possible. So I would call that, in some cases, that could be called overcropping because you're creating an umbrella over plants that are delicate. You can also undercrop. So you could be growing your tomatoes above, and they could be growing vertically, and below them you could be growing your carrots, and you could be growing your basil and your parsley under your tomatoes as well. And you could also be growing flowers. So you could be growing white clover as a bed. It would be almost like a cover crop. It's a low-lying, beautiful flower, very simple flower, and it will actually provide more nutrients back into the soil. And so you kind of undercrop that under everything as a bed. It protects the soil as well. And so you want to look at what are the different sizes of the flowers and where can I put them. So a lot of times I will put the flowers on the edges because it's easy to get to them, to snip them. They can kind of spill over the edges, and the vegetables are all in the middle. That means that if I'm changing out the vegetables 3 times a season, I can keep the flowers there the whole season, and the middle of the bed I can keep changing. And so that just makes it simpler. Sometimes I'll put perennials only at the very end of the bed because it's going to grow back year after year. And so as I'm transforming my crop plan every year, I just keep that little perennial area static. So sometimes what I'll do is if I have 4 different beds that I'm rotating as a crop plan, I'll say, okay, this one little bit on the side of the bed for all of the beds will always be perennial flowers. And so that way the crop plan stays the same. This part shifts to here, this part shifts to there, this part shifts to there, but I've got my perennials right on the edge. They never move. And it doesn't affect my crop plan because it's not intermixed, but it is intermixed. It's in the beds. So the plants are still benefiting from being next to each other, but it's not completely woven in. And of course, you can do chaos gardening, which is put anything wherever you want, and it will be beautiful and it will be fun, and you never know what will happen. And that's always a possibility for you if you like a little chaos. That is very, very beneficial in terms of biodiversity, because a little bit of everything all over the place is a habitat for a lot of health. So chaos gardening. So you just have to know how big the flower is, how tall it is, and how long it's going to be there, so you can plan your other annual vegetables around it. And then in that same question was is this plant perennial or annual? And so there are flowers like echinacea, like lavender, like daylily. Did you know that daylily has a lot of edible components? Everything from the shoots to the flowers to when the flower first forms, and things like hibiscus if you're in a warm enough area. So if you're thinking about adding perennials into your garden, then you really do want to pay attention to how big they are and where they're placed, so that you can have a crop plan that's easy to rotate. That, in my experience, has been the number one factor when you're adding flowers, is to have a system where the perennials are the same in every bed, so that the rest of the food can rotate through. And if it's an annual, it can just be mixed in with all of your other vegetables and herbs, because it's going to get ripped out by the end of the year anyway. So it can just get mixed in anywhere. And of course, one of my favorite design considerations for choosing flowers in your vegetable in our garden is, does this flower spark joy in your life? Do the colors just make you so excited? Like the minute you see these colors in the garden, you just get it. You're like, yes, I'm so happy I planted that. Look at that beautiful flower. Is it the smell when you brush by it? When you brush by that rose bush or that lavender or whatever it is, do you just feel nourished in your heart and so happy? Is it the shape of the flower? This wonderfully wild tiger lily with these dots. I just love the shape of it. It's just so explosive and just wild. I love the shape of this. And every time I see one of these, it just makes me smile. So does the flower spark joy? Because the garden is this place of wonder. And the more joy we can bring into the garden, that means the more time we want to spend there, which means the more food we will grow, which means the more health we will enjoy, the more vitality. And really, what joy is all about is it will spark more creativity in your life and innovation in your life. So this is one of my favorite considerations, is really picking something that is wild and fun, that nourishes my heart and soul. All right, so that's how you choose which flowers. And we gave you a list of lots of different flowers to choose from. Now, there is one critical mistake to avoid when you are choosing the variety. So once you choose which flowers you want, there's one critical mistake that I see a lot of people make, which is that sometimes people will care about the yield. They might be growing sunflowers and they might want lots of them, or they might be growing calendula or cosmos or different flowers, and they want they want more of them. They don't want just one flower. Like echinacea is a plant where you will get maybe a flower a season. And so the critical decision that you need to make is, am I going to plant a variety where I cut the flower and more comes back, which are called cut and come again? Or am I going to grow something? I don't care that I only have one of them a season or two of them a season, that's okay. So the critical mistake to avoid is to not know if your plant is a cut and come again or a single. So with sunflowers, there are dozens of varieties, and some of them shoot straight up and have one flower at the top. And then some of them, they have offshoots and offshoots and more offshoots. And every time you cut them, they produce more sunflowers. So you'll get more yield. You'll have more flower bouquets. You'll have more sunflower seeds if you're growing for sunflower seeds. So you want to know how you will be using the flowers and what kind of yield you expect, because usually the mistakes that we make in the garden is a mismatched expectation. We see lots of bouquets and then we say, okay, I want to grow this flower because I want lots of bouquets, but then I don't realize that I just planted something that's going to give me just one flower. And then I cut it and nothing else comes back. And then you're kind of sad. You're like, I can't believe I waited the entire season for that one flower. And yeah, I enjoyed it, but I wish I would have planted something that would have produced more. So there are lots of different cut and come again varieties if you're looking for more yield. So that is the critical piece of information that you want to know when you're picking the variety. And within those varieties, you'll find, with marigolds, there's hundreds of varieties. And yes, all of them to some degree are edible. Some might taste better than others. So again, that mismatched expectation of, well, I can eat any marigold. And then some people say they prefer this flavor to this one. So you could go to the store and you could taste the marigold that they're selling to say, well, if I'm going to eat it, is this the one I want to eat? Or is it a different one? So those mismatched expectations are what to look out for. All right, so now that you know what to look out for when you're adding flowers to your vegetable and herb garden, I hope that you can see how these flowers can not only bring even more productivity to your garden and increase your nourishment and your medicine, but that also they can transform your garden into a masterpiece. If you really think about these flowers, their shapes, their sizes, their colors, their scents, all of the joy that it's going to bring to your life, I hope you can see in your imagination the masterpiece that you want to create this next growing season. And go ahead and follow the link and grab the cheat sheet to this presentation.